everybody, welcome to, what is it, part 6 of the DynaKit ST-35 tube amp. I guess this might be an ownership series, but it's part of the Peeble video series, and it's the winter vacation video. So I'm on winter vacation again, and this is dedicated to Peeble, to show them the things I do in the wintertime when it's cold outside. Gotta stay in the house and do things in the house. So if you've watched part 4 and 5 I just made recently, you saw basically the restoration I did to the circuit boards or the amplifier boards to make the amplifier pretty much brand new again. And I did some other things to it that I didn't video. So I did a video of the boards being built and the board being installed. And when it's done, I did a few more other things I'll go over as in this video. This is going to be a talking video, not any time lapse. We'll talk about the amp a bit. I'm not going to talk about the ST-35 amplifier because if you watch part 1, I do the unboxing when I bought it 3 years ago. And I talk about the amplifier there, what it is and what it means and all that kind of stuff. It's a vintage amplifier made in 1966, September 23rd, 1966. Certainly it's had some updates over the years. I'm not sure if 1 or 2 or 3 times, but it's pretty old, and the boards that were in it before are certainly been updated and things like that. What is original about those the transformers you'll see after the lid is off, and I'll remove the lid, and then we'll be able to take a look at what I did, and we'll summarize the whole restoration and what it really means for this amplifier. Don't forget it's brought to you by Keystone Ice. Not really though, but I drink it every time I do restoration videos. So I just took a few moments to remove the 4 screws. That's all it takes to get into this amplifier. So there's 4 screws, 2 on each side. Just a simple screwdriver. Pretty easy to do. This is the front view of the amplifier. So you can see the power switch I added. We'll talk about that after. And these are the input jacks. So it's unusual for usual place for input jacks. Most amplifiers, everything's in the rear. So on this amplifier, it was pretty common back then in 1960s, 50s and 60s. The input for the amplifiers are here, go through the amplifier and they come out to the speakers. So it's kind of like a direct path for the signal. I guess that's how they thought of it. So I'll just remove the cover and see how easy it is. The cover comes off. The cover's in really good condition. It has a DynaKit. So I'm hoping you see that there. I have no monitor to see what's going on. I think you can see that. It's got a nice sticker. It's very, very nice original condition. Original lid. So it's an amplifier, of course, and you can see it with all the tubes in. So these are 2 driver tubes. These are 4 output tubes. Your EL84s, which are highly regarded too. I talk about that stuff in the other parts of my videos, the other parts of my DynaKit. So part one talks about the amplifier. Part 2 talks about the upgrades I did, such as the power switch and the 3-prong plug for safety, and the capacitor can that I replaced to make it original. Capacitor can for the power supply smoothing and for the bias circuit. So part 3 shows me doing the installs of the power switch, the cap can, and the power cord. Part 4 is what we just had. We built the boards. Part 5 was installing the board. And this is part 6, talking about all the thing work I did, because I did some more work. We're going to see inside what else I did to make this amplifier basically like a brand new amplifier from the factory. So we're just going to pick it up, and it is heavy. It's 17 pounds. So it's a heavy little amplifier. It's certainly deceiving. It's very difficult to turn around here. Turn it around. I'm going to show you something I did right away, because I hopefully it's in the frame. I'm just going to check. Yeah, that's good. So part of what I didn't show in the other 2 parts that were just done recently is I took out these banana plugs that were in the back. Someone upgraded banana plug jacks for just the 8 ohm output of the amplifier. So I didn't want that on there anymore, because these are, although they're really nice quality banana plugs, they look really ugly. You can see they're big brass things. They're really pretty good quality though, probably. Excuse me. But they're really ugly sitting on the back. If you look at the other parts, you'll see the big banana plug jacks there. I didn't like it. So what I did is I got the originals. I think these are a lighter colored one. There's a darker colored one that kind of matches the output board, the amplifier board. These are the only ones they had in stock, so I bought them from DynaKitparts.com. So I ordered these because they're available immediately. So they're a little lighter than the factory, I believe. But this is how it came from the factory. So this is the common, which is ground. This is an 8 ohm tap, and this is a 16 ohm tap. So 16 ohm, 8 ohm, and the common. So on the 8 ohm, you can run 4 to 12 ohm speakers, and on the 16 ohm, you can go 12 to, I forget what I said. Anyways, but I want to make it back to factory look, so it looks nice back here. So it has the fuse holder. It has an upgraded cord, which is good for safety, and it's better rate than the original cord was too old and cracked. And then I repurposed the banana plugs, and I just soldered the wires on, heat shrunk there to make it look nice, and soldered on some spade connectors. So I can go on there and shrink them up there nice. Got a red wire and a black wire, so you know positive and negative. So you know that's the common, you know that's the positive. Then it's got a convenient banana jack, so I plug it in and out. I got amplifiers all over the place, so you can plug it in all the speakers, just all banana plugs, or you can, of course, you can open it up, like that, put a bare wire in it, and then close it, or whatever kind of connector you might have to go in there. So it makes it convenient because these, actually putting them back is a pain, because trying to connect these up, wires up to there, it's a pain in the ass to do all the time if you want to switch speakers in and out or move your amplifier around or anything like that. So I just repurposed them and made it like that. It's really convenient. They stay nice and tight and permanent there, and never taking the screws in and out, and it doesn't affect anything. So it looks really good. So that's what my original upgrades were. Of course, it was the power cord. I put a 3-prong power cord, so it's grounded. It's a grounded power cord. It's safer, so it's not going to electrocute you if something goes wrong. Of course, and then in the front had the power switch. I'm going to turn this around again. Well, maybe when I turn it over, I'll do it. So to turn this amplifier over, we're going to look inside. So I did the power board, the amplifier boards. You saw those videos already. So that's part of the restoration. Made it like a brand new amplifier. It turned over. It's actually able to do it with the tubes in because the transformers stick down further. Just got to be careful when you do it. It's really heavy. Make sure I'm still in frame here with all this moving around. Pretty good. There we go. So you can see on the bottom, you can see the speaker outputs, and it's all factory now. So before, I only had the 8 ohm ones with the 2 banana jacks. So these banana jacks stuck out the back here, big things like that. It looked really ugly. It didn't look nice at all. So this is all looking factory now. This looks like it did in 1966, except like I said, I think it was a darker color board instead of a lighter color board. That's all right. Still, it's the screw terminals. Shows common 8 ohm, 16 ohm for left speaker, right speaker, same thing. There's all the layout of the tubes, the L84s, and the driver tubes, 7247s. Shows the left input, right input. Then I added the power switch in the front, which is in factory. So I'll take this amplifier part. It was easy to 4 screws in the side, take the top off, flip it over, just pull the bottom off, and the bottom comes right off. Now we look inside. If you're not familiar with it, you won't know what I did. But so this is the power switch I added. I'm actually changing this power switch. This one has wires. I better be careful because it might still have power in there. I always got to be careful with these amps. It has capacitors. It could be still charged after I unplugged it. And I can get a pretty big 300 volt buzz there. So don't be poking around in there if you don't really know what you're doing. You shouldn't be touching it. But anyways, so this is the wired switch. I didn't like it when I bought the switches originally. So I got another switch coming. It's going to have terminals in the back. And instead of these wires coming out of the switch, I'm going to have terminals. I can solder my own wires into the fuse. So the black's going to come to the switch, and then the black's going to go from the switch to the, or sorry, yeah, power's going to come in and go to the fuse, and it's going to be, so it's going to be. So right here was a thermistor. So you can see this little component here. You can see it moves now. It's going to be, when I do it, I'm going to mount it over here, and I'm going to actually have it mount to the terminals. So power's going to come in. It's going to go through the switch. Then when you click the switch, it's going to go through the thermistor and then go to there. What the thermistor does is it prevents AC inrush. So when you turn on the power, this resistor basically has lots of resistance to current when it's cold. So when you first turn it on, it doesn't let current flow. So then it slowly warms up as current's there. It's trying to flow through it. It warms up and then it finally delivers full current. So it slows down the powering up of the amplifier. It's really good for older amplifiers. tube amplifiers, especially when I have a solid state rectifier circuit. It doesn't use a tube rectifier circuit. It helps to bring the tubes up slower and doesn't give them a jolt of electricity. What it also does, well, the main purpose I bought it for was it can reduce the voltage by 1 or 2 volts. So when this was made, it was rated for 115 volt, 115 line volts. Modern AC lines are around 120 to 121, something like that. So you're getting about maybe 5 volts more, and actually those 5 extra volts actually change the voltages in the amplifier and actually make the amplifier work a little harder. So this brings it down to, drops it down 1 or 2 volts or whatever, so it can help just bring the voltages back closer to spec. So that's good. So another thing I did was, and you can see, of course, the boards I did. I moved original speakers, so before I had two little standoffs here, and the 16 ohm taps, which are these ones with the feedback wires going. The 16 ohm taps were over here, and they were away from here. So there was no 16 ohm tap available over here. It was just a banana plugs with an 8 ohm tap. So I took those little standoffs off, like these terminal strip, a single terminal strip. I took the terminal strips off, so it's cleaner in here now, and took this wire that was over here and here. I moved them back over to here. So now I got the 16 ohm taps available. Those are the feedback wires going, so it needs a feedback for the amplifier circuit. So now I have the common, the 8 ohm, and the 16 ohm tap back the original way it was. So you can see the wiring looks more original. It's all going like that. This is the AC cord I put in. You can see it's nicely strong, nice and held in tight with that clip, and there's no strain on the wires. I'm going to change the power switch, and I want to put a little power light. I've got a power light coming that looks like a kind of a vintage looking light. I'm going to have it so when you click on the switch, the light's going to come on too. So I'm going to put that in the front beside it so you know when it's on. Now what I did is the bias circuit also. I'll look in my bag of stuff here. Just try to explain it to you if you're interested or not. I've got a new bias circuit. So basically got it from DynaKitparts.com. You can pause it if you want to read it. I think it's all in the frame. I'm going to pause the video, just read that. But what it is basically is it's called the ST-35 bias circuit kit, and it's for ST-35. Oh, that's just the part number for it. Bias circuit kit BCK. So what it is, you can see here, it consists of basically 2 diodes, 2 resistors, 2 big resistors, wire wound resistors, and a regular resistor, like a carbon composite resistor. And what this does, it goes to the power supply. It provides the power for the bias circuits of the amplifier. I'm not going to explain what the bias circuit amplifier is, but basically it just keeps the tubes at the working voltages so that they produce the power they're supposed to without working too hard and burning up, all that kind of stuff. So what I did is, the original one had different parts in it, and I'll get those parts out in a second. I'll find everything here. Oh, the bag of, so this is the bag of parts I took out. So these are all the bias circuit parts I originally had. So I had, you can see they look very old. So these are the 2 resistors, original resistors that were in there. Probably original to this amplifier, I'm going to guess. Like these don't go bad. There'd be no reason to change them. Someone over the years certainly could have changed them 10 years ago or even 20 years ago, since this amplifier's 51 years old. And that's the other resistor, so you saw that diagram of that. And then someone did replace the diodes with a more modern diode. So basically they used looks like a transistor type diode. So I think I call it fast diodes. So they've got faster response times. They're good for some circuits. You prefer to use these, but in this type of circuit you don't need a fast diode. It's not necessary. That's a really good choice to put them in. They're always reliable. They're solid state, all that. So this has a solid state rectifier, not a tube rectifier like many tube amplifiers do. So these are the parts that I changed out from that kit from DynaKitparts.com. So I'll show you where those parts are in here now. So if you look carefully, you'll see in the diagram, I'll show you what it looks like an original circuit pictorial. The original circuit pictorial, you can see one wire comes from the transformer, these 2 red wires. So one wire comes from the transformer. It's connected together with one end of the diode. You can see the diode direction, and it goes to the capacitor can. The other wire, these are the high voltage wires coming from the transformer, comes to this terminal, and the other diode goes there and goes to that same location on the cap can. Then you can see the bias circuit, one wire on resistor, or no, are these wire on? Sorry, whatever they are. The big resistor, one of the big resistors go to from that terminal to that terminal, and one goes from that terminal to ground on this side. And then the other resistor and the carbon comp resistor goes in between this terminal and that terminal. Basically, that's what I did for that. I made it back to original, so you can see the wire coming out. It's supposed to be red. It doesn't look like it's all faded. You see the one wire coming from the transformer, it comes to here. Then it goes across that diode to this post, and then this one comes from there to there. And then the red wire is connected to the central post and goes to that place of the, to that capacitor. So basically it's the same thing as going from that wire to that, and going from that wire to that. But instead I already had this terminal strip in here that's been changed from original. So I just took all the other junk out of there that was originally there, and I just soldered those two diodes in like that. So you can see in the right direction, it comes from there. You can see the little band. Hopefully you can see that there's a band on the diode. It goes to center right direction. This one comes and it goes right direction. There you go, red wire there. And then I just soldered these in, the two resistors, so they're brand new, and that resistor is brand new. So the bias circuit and the diodes are all brand new, so that's all brand new. So that's part of the power supply. I changed that cap can when I first got. That was in part 2 and 3 of the DynaKit. I changed that cap can, put in the switch and the power cord back then in part 2 and 3. So now everything's basically brand new in here, except for, of course, the transformers. And that's what you got to talk about, is these transformers. They're cloth covered. You can see they're all cloth covered transformers. They're the original DynaKit transformers, and these are highly desirable and highly collectible. They have really good sound quality. They're highly regarded in the 60s and the 70s. Even today, these transformers are some of the best sounding output transformers you can get for tube amplifiers. So this amplifier is really pretty nice amplifier, and it's got the original DynaKit transformers, power transformer, and the output transformers with a cloth wiring. You can get a little bit newer amplifier like that was made back in the late 60s, and I'm not sure when, but probably late 60s, very early 70s. They had like a wiring like this where it has a poly plastic or whatever coating on those, so it's not the same transformers. These are the highly desirable ones. They're cloth ones. The first ones they're wound very well and have very good specifications. So basically that's it for the amplifier. That's how I did it all, and that's all the upgrades. So it's like a brand new amplifier. What else we got in here? So these are just all the parts left over that I took out of it, and I kind of had there, so I'll show you that. So basically a little handful of stuff I took out. The miscellaneous stuff I never showed in the time lapse. Oh yeah, so yeah, basically, so these were taken out. These nano plugs were taken out, and then the input jacks, I didn't talk about that. So I changed the input jacks in part 2. I said I ordered these input jacks and I was going to replace them. These are the original, not the originals, these are the replaced ones, which are very nice jacks. They're gold plated and very good quality jack. There's no doubt about the input jacks. Better quality than the originals. And those were in there, but they didn't look original because I'm going to turn the amp around. Or flip it up if I can here a little bit. Check it out. I got the tubes in there, be very careful. Turn it on just Vegas. Hopefully you can see this somehow. I hope I'm in frame. So you can see I put the original jacks in. So these are kind of an aluminum type of input jack. And you can see compared to the gold one that they replaced it with. So this was a very nice jack and good quality. It sat in there like that. When I did this hole, and this hole was just open holes. Now there weren't screws in there. It didn't have the original look to the amplifier. So I didn't change in part 2. I decided to keep them because they are good quality. But I decided now I would do it because I did kind of a restoration on this. I'm trying to make it into an original DynaKit, so it's not. A lot of people, some of these people have these and they mod them. There, I turn it around. You can see the jacks. People mod them and do all kinds of things. They change the whole power supply circuit with adjustable bias, so they can bias the tubes with little potentiometers or whatever, and do all kinds of things to make these, but they don't preserve the circuit and preserve what the amplifier is. So this is basically, except for a thermistor, which is good to do because of higher voltage and for instance rush for a solid state rectifying circuit, which is better for the tubes. It doesn't get the fast power surge. Now this is basically like if you were back in 1966, this is the way the amplifier would have been, except for the power switch and the and the grounded cord. So it's original, all original circuit, all original boards, these boards, actually the new boards, if you're going to look carefully, they have copper traces. So all the joints are all copper traces. So it's a modern way of making circuit boards, which is much better than it was back then in 1966. It's all modern components, so the manufacturing and quality control of the resistors and the capacitors are all better now. It's all much better components, all exactly the same values. Everything's exactly the same as this original. If this is the original board, it's an original type of board. I don't know if it's original to this amplifier. Maybe someone over the years replaced the whole board. This board has been restuffed, obviously. You can see all the components, so they're weird looking capacitors. These are, although they're the right values, this is not really the right type of capacitor to put in here, and they're kind of, and this, for these capacitors, I tried to look them up. I don't really know what they are. They're some kind of very strange looking ones. They may be good quality in whatever somebody did. Even the resistors are, they're some kind of metal film, I guess, but they have very unusual casings on them. They're all black and they don't seem to have striping. They have numbers written on them instead. So these might be all high-end parts. Someone changed the socket here. I don't know if these sockets are original. They might have put in original replacements or not. See, the board is very old though. But what's not really good about this board is it has actually solder traces. So all these traces are not copper traces on the board. They're actually solder traces. So they kind of lay down on the board, and they can over the years separate away and come apart and break and stuff like that. So for sure, updating these boards to a more modern board. It's a thicker PC. You can see how thin that one is. It's thicker. It's exactly the same circuit diagram, the circuit layout, exactly the same components. Everything's original. The only difference is you'll see it's DynaKit PC13 and power amplifier module. This one has just a little bit of writing on it that you can tell it's got revision numbers, and it's a DynaKit part instead of an original DynaKit. So I'll keep these boards, and they'll stay with the amplifier along with all these other parts that I have in my hand here. So everything's going to stay together, and we'll have all the original stuff just for nostalgia and to show us part of the history of the amplifier, because it is a very old amplifier. And it runs absolutely beautiful. It's brand new. It's got both boards, all brand new circuits, and it's all back to original for the speaker outputs, and repurposed those things, and everything's all brand new on it. So the only difference in the front is going to look like you can have a switch in the front and a light. Because originally, as I said in other parts of the video, these were probably plugged into a preamp. They had no power switches from the factory. You turn on your preamp, the amplifier would turn on. Turn off your preamp. The preamp would have the switched output, and it would shut the amplifier off. So these days, though, I'm not going to do it like that. Basically, I want the amplifier only to turn on what I want to turn on, so I'll have the power switch and a light. And upgrade that and move the thermistor to a better location. This kind of iffy. It's over. See, I put some foil because this gets hot over the wires to keep the heat off of it. It's not a good spot to keep the thermistor. Over here, I got more room. I can move the wires away from the wires and be able to operate better there, ready to the power switch. So I think that's about it. I have the whole bag of parts and stuff, and all the kit stuff and the diagrams, what I did, and all the old parts. I'll put everything together, and I'll keep it together with the amplifier. And if I ever sell the amplifier or whatever, someone will know, and they'll have these videos they can look at from part 1 to part 6 and see all the things I did. And I've been running it for a couple of days now, so it's been, I think, 3 days. I've had it on for about 8 hours each day to burn it all in and everything. And turn this around again without breaking it. Freaking heavy. So like that, I guess. So I burned it in. I didn't really turn up the volume too much on it because it's hooked up to the stereo where it's everybody in the house can hear it. Chris was sick, staying at home, so she was home, and I didn't want to disturb her with some loud music and that. But I played it at just very low volume levels, and it just sounds really beautiful. They certainly improved with all the brand new components and all the right types of components. I put brand new output tubes in it. These are driver tubes I have been using for the past 3 years. Put brand new output tubes in it. And with everything done on it, it seems like it sounds better, I'm pretty sure, because it just seems to have better, deeper bass and a really nice smooth highs, and it's very, very nice sounding amplifier. So that's basically it, I guess. So it's a brand new amp, and it's ready for probably another 51 years of use, and maybe an upgrade or two once in a while for the caps, and it's going to be ready to go. And you can see the transformers are really good condition. This is a really good condition. This is nickel plated chassis, so it's got a little bit of corrosion on it. I cleaned it up a little bit just to get the dust on it off, but it's in really pretty good shape. You could probably use a better cleaning if you had to take the time and use the right kind of cleaning solvent or whatever you used to clean it. You see the transformers are all like original paint is on them by the looks of things, and there's no corrosion. Like a lot of these old amplifiers, it's all rusty because they're exposed to, I guess, humid conditions or something. I'm not sure, but sometimes they're super rusty. Of course, they still work and everything, but they're rusty on the surface. These all looks like they already have all the original. You can see kind of a, it's like a thick material they put on to keep all these plates from vibrating. And it's all original. It's all on there. These are original transformers from 1966, cloth covered, of course. Power transformer, output transformers. Very, very desirable little amplifier. I think it'd be hard to find one in this condition because now it's been completely redone. There are some out there that have mods to them, like the power mods. They have whole boards up front here. Has things like that, and they do all kinds of weird things to them. But this is original. It looks very original except for the power cord, the power switch. Here it looks all very original. It's all original circuitry. Yeah, I'll talk about the time lapse. When I got the kit from DynaKit Parts, had these coupling capacitors, and they go to the side here. You can see that. I hope I'm in frame. That should be. Coupling capacitors go on each side right there. So they had these ones. They're yellow. I didn't like the look of yellow because it's too bright. It doesn't suit the original look of the kit of the amplifier. And there's no names on them whatsoever, so I didn't want to use caps that had actually no branding. So I bought the Solon caps, which are black. Oh, excuse me, and they're made by Solon. And also to mention, I used carbon composite resistors. If you can look there, try to see that all these types. Those are original to the original circuit in 1966. You can buy metal film resistors, but they're not really required for a circuit like this. Metal film resistors are better than these if you want to look at technical aspect of them. But they're more for your better resistors to be used in high frequency circuits and things like that, like radio transmitters and frequency generators and things like that. They can get better tolerances and they can have better specifications for that. These carbon comps are modern carbon comps, so they're not like from 50 years ago. They're made in very good quality and they're very good condition. The manufacturing of them is good and they're very precise. So it gives an original look to the board. Some of these caps probably look different than the original board, but they're all very similar. So it looks very original. And it brings it back to what I want to do is make this back to 1966 again. And I think I succeeded in that. It's pretty much exactly the same cap can, exactly the same bias circuit, exactly the same circuit here, all very similar components, looking components to one was 1966, much upgraded, better quality. The thing just sounds awesome. It's just amazing. That's what made me buy my Bob Latino ST-35 tube amplifier that I have in my music room, if you've seen that video. And I just fell in love with the tube sound, and this little amplifier just sounds amazing. I love listening to it every time I turn it on. I don't use it very often, and I use it as a treat. I just want to if I'm really in the mood to listen to some good music, and I put this amp on, I just sit there and go, wow, it's so engaging and so nice sounding. It's just amazing. You can't really beat it. Okay, so I think that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the videos. Brought to you by Keystone Ice. And dedicated to Peebo because this is a Peebo video series for winter vacation 2018 January. Yeah, having a good time. There's lots of fun to do. Now today I'm hooked in the system. Chris is at work, which I'm coming home pretty soon. Try and put some music on and just give it a little bit of volume so get these tubes rocking. Thanks for watching and have a safe day. Never touch this stuff if you don't know what you're doing because you get killed.